Alright, here we are. I have just launched my very first rocket in some 300 hours of playing this game. This is the second base that I put a lot of time into. I've got 150 or so hours on this, I think. And there's a lot of cool stuff here. And it is the eve. It's midnight, so it is the day, I guess, of the release of Space Age. And so I am just about to put this base to bed for the last time and start a new one tomorrow. So I thought I would just kind of take a little tour of this base and check it out. My intention had been to get to something like 500 science per minute. And the goal that I've been working toward for the last, I don't know, week or two has been getting a rocket to launch every 2 minutes or so. Honestly, this second silo is unnecessary, but I wanted to see kind of how much I had buffered in parts that you need to make the rocket parts. I can see that my bottleneck is low density structures, so I'm not going to fix that because this is probably the last time I'll load up this save, or at least anything but coming back for blueprints or whatever. So this has been a pretty cool base. I guess I'll zoom out. We can see the whole thing in all its glory. I had the bright idea at some point to just wall off choke points, and so I managed to get myself a fairly huge area in which I didn't have to worry about biters at all. So that was a good lesson. You can kind of see at the start, you can kind of see like the evidence of it here. I had this walled off outpost and have these walled off outposts. But eventually I moved to this just notion of walling off checkpoints. One thing that was really, I had just a ton of fun designing this. This was the third iteration of this. This one actually is not fully complete. So let's go look at a better one like this one. This is, the outpost that I used to supply my walls. So you can kind of see like what a section of the wall looks like. It's got turrets fed by logistics. Some places they're belt fed, and then lasers and flamethrowers, and all that is supplied by this station, which does a little bit of everything. It's got a separate station specifically for artillery, and then it's got all these little mini. The train that comes into this is pretty funky, but it's got all these little chests that do like repair packs and ammo, and bots are kind of single purpose, but all the little one-off supplies like inserters and turrets and stuff like that, those are kind of combined with some somewhat clever circuitry to change the filters on these inserters and make this whole thing work. This will be interesting to try to adapt something like this to the new game, because inserters are a little bit different, and there's some new circuit stuff that might make this a little easier. The way these work is they've got like a constant combinator that says what they ought to, like what this chest ought to have in it, and that gets added to the negation of what is in the chest. So the long and short of it is, like, if you have a positive signal, then you know that this chest needs something. And then all that gets collected up over here. And, if you have a positive signal, then you'll know, like you can see, this one actually needs some stuff. If you have a positive signal, you know that this supply station needs something. So this supply station needs ammo and repair packs and a couple turrets. Probably because it's been taking quite a few. It's been fighting quite often. Let's take a look and see, like, where's this train? So this train has, like, the most complicated schedule of any of my trains. It, you know, goes and visits ammo and repair packs and picks up crude oil, picks up fuel, all kinds of stuff. And we've been getting quite a lot of visits from biters. It's like this station is missing a single bot. But of course, that train has to complete the whole circuit. Yeah, you can see, like, this station's been taking a lot of action. That train has to complete the whole circuit of all the different places it goes before it'll make it out here. This one will probably not get resupplied for quite some time. So yeah, this is a train-heavy base. I really kind of got the hang of trains. I started off, this is over here is my starting area. You know, my initial ore patches were around here somewhere. Those are my big smelting arrays with, you know, fuel burning furnaces, which are largely inactive these days, but they're still there. So these, you know, have ore being delivered to them. For my later stuff, I switched to making plates on site. But anyway, you know, the kind of starter base was over here. You can see, like, my first these science pack builds have served me well since, you know, since I first started. Pretty small little research area. Had I, you know, ended up having time to get into, like, infinite research, this would have been something I had to upgrade, but I didn't. I had a bus. There's a lot of different stuff coming off this bus. A lot of it's been cleaned up, and so the bus looks kind of barren. But the main thing that the bus feeds is this cool mall over here. This was, like, one of the most fun parts of this base, was just cramming everything I could as tightly as I could. This makes just about every kind of thing you could need, and served me really, really well until, you know, until the end of the game, when I was trying to, like, really build up to make rocket parts quickly. This thing really just takes... Something might be wrong over here. So we'll go take a look at that. But it was enough to get my first rocket, so it's a victory. Yeah, something's going on. What's the deal here? Oh, plastic. Plastic's our bottleneck, apparently. So anyway, you know, as I got deeper and deeper, I kind of got into the whole, well, city block style thing. It's not really city blocks. I mean, these ones maybe kind of are, but you know, just this whole notion of, you have these little areas of your base where they're isolated, and the things that they need are delivered by train, and the things that they produce are taken away by train. I think this is the first one I did that was kind of in that style. I also just had a lot of fun. I kind of gave myself license to build some really dumb rail stuff, like this over here. You know, what the hell is that? And then, you know, as I was kind of scaling up, I did more and more of that. Like, here's another example maybe of, this is like a landfill production station. Found these two stone patches next to each other, and just making landfill over here. Over the course of the... Oh, here's another kind of nifty thing. This is a nuclear reactor of my own design. Well, at least mostly, right? Like, this whole notion of the belt loop for fuel in and out, I didn't come up with that, but I laid out the turbines myself, and I like how they look. That's like a 1.2 gigawatt reactor, and they were easy enough to just copy paste that I just kind of stamped them down. One thing I learned as part of this is that if you get Covarex going, you just, like, barely need any uranium at all. This patch I started ages and ages ago, and I think this will never, well, obviously it'll never run out because I'm pretty much done with the save, but it's powering these 4 reactors, and we're still hugely oversupplied. Um, you can see, at some point I was like, I really gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with all this excess fuel, but I guess I put off the decision for long enough. There is an alarm hooked up to this that tells me when this one gets full, and then usually what I do is I go and build another one of these. So yeah, I don't know. I won't belabor it too long, but we'll just look at a couple cool builds. I mean, I think the mall, this is just the most fun. It's, what they call spaghetti on the subreddit, and it's just been, this was so much fun to build, just like trying to solve that puzzle of just like, hey, like how can I cram a thing in here? Oh, there's a little space right there, and like maybe I can get something in. You actually see like it gets up here, it's, I don't know, fairly reasonable, and then it gets more and more ridiculous as things go on. There's even this like beaconed low density structure production in there, and production for all the nuclear stuff, production for, oh, this is a kind of funny thing. Like I automated Spidertrons because why not? Although really this didn't turn out to be funny at all, because I really enjoyed, I didn't nearly figure out how to use Spidertrons the first time I played, and like I've got all kinds of Spidertron squads. I've got these guys that are just kind of the murder squad. They've just got lasers and rockets, and that's a repair. He follows, behind and kind of repairs. But I've got like, let's see, where am I? I've got this series of the blue ones that do building, and it was really turned out to be very handy to kind of lay these guys out in such a way that they would easily be able to build whatever I needed. And what I ended up doing was like I have purpose-built Spidertrons for various things that you build. Like this guy builds that train defense station. I have a guy who does modules and beacons, oil stuff, miners, all those different things. But then like, their inventories are all filtered and nice, and so whenever you need a bunch of belts built, this is your guy. And so on and so forth. Miners, whatever thing you're setting up. So those blue guys kind of travel around in a group and become a big part of every build. So that was another thing, I wound up needing so many blue belts as I scaled up that I wound up building this little factory. And I'm sure I would have needed even more. Solar I never really invested that much in. This was nice, like in the early transition from Steam, I just was stamping these down, but as I got into like needing more and more power, just stamping down another reactor was a lot quicker, so I didn't really invest in this. One thing I thought might be cool would be to like have a train station out here that takes a delivery of accumulators and solar panels and bots and stuff, and then you could like just expand it. This is one thing that I stole a blueprint for. I just, I didn't want to figure out how to lay out the right ratio. I think the only other thing in this game, the only other thing I took a blueprint for was just that classic 4-to-4 balancer. Everything else here is like my own design. These stations are like inspired by the kind of common unloader and reloader stations that everyone uses, but the basic premise was I wanted to do everything myself, which led to some interesting stuff. Here's another, like, what the hell is going on here? But, like, this was actually really fun, you know, coming up with these weird rail loops and stuff. And this one was designed because I was trying to fit it inside the existing walls. The nice thing here was, like, I really learned how to signal weird junctions. All kinds of experimental gizmos. Actually, I don't. This seems suspect. I guess it must. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. What else? Well, let's take a look at this area. So this is the area that's, the thing that I had to scale up the most was circuits. I started running out of modules. Modules are slow. So ultimately, I was like building up towards getting a module factory going. And it's funny, these just don't look like that much, but they took a lot of effort to get to the point where I could build this, and they make a lot of modules. It's a full chest. These are set up so that there's a little bit more production of type 2 modules than you need, so that you can siphon off a couple extras. And of course, then, once you fill up, take the leftovers there too. But this was some cool stuff to figure out. One thing I thought was cool was I really didn't want to look up like fancy builds like Nilaus does or something. I wanted to do them on my own. And the solution I landed on for these was, I realized if I moduled them right and beaconed them right, then I could have one copper wire feed one circuit, which made the build simpler. So mine wound up being 8 and 4. And then when I did look up, just for curiosity, like what's the de facto standard circuit build, that apparently is what they do too. Like, I think the ratio there, I don't remember, it's different. And theirs is faster, but it was the same idea, right? Like, you're doing more beacons on the copper than the green circuits, so that you can even them out. So my stuff was all just calculated to, fill a belt. And I think these get like 179. The 4 of them together get 179 a minute. So it's really pretty close to 4 blue belts. It's interesting though that this one. Oh yeah, look at that. No. So if we ever make it back over there, we'll fix that. Then of course I had my red circuits. And the funny thing with red circuits is you kind of start working from the assumption of like, okay, I'm going to have one of my green circuit builds delivering 4 blue belts of green circuits. So how many reds can I get out of that? Turns out to be just about 2 belts. Each of these, I think, puts out a belt of red circuits. So the funny thing was, like, you need this wild copper wire build, which takes in 4 and change to make 6 belts of copper wire. The and change is actually coming off. These don't take a 4 full belts, or a full 4 belts. So there's a little excess that you can draw off and send that over into these. So it's that spaghetti spirit. But then this got to the point where it's like, okay, well, like, I copy paste this, and then I have I have this green circuit module. So I did get kind of cool and modular. Same idea here, right? Like, I've got my green circuit module feeding into my blue circuit module. I decided to have these not build red circuits on site. They just get it trained in, and that seems to work well. Now, if these never got fully moduled, and I should do that, well, when, but they would be faster. What else? So a lot of this is just copy paste stuff. That's the module factory. The rocket control unit factory. Not very interesting, but fully beaconed. But just gets, greens, reds, and whatever the other is, blues, out from the rail network. Same idea over here. Plastic and steel I make on site. I started copy pasting this little, or not that one. Copy pasting like this little build all over the place with module furnaces and the miners and everything. So it's been a lot of fun. Spent a lot of time with this base. It's gonna feel weird tomorrow, starting a fresh save and not having all my shit. Oh, I guess one last thing I'll look at before I close this video out. I've shown just about everything cool except for this. This is my like wildly over provisioned oil factory. So this gets crude down in at the bottom. I think I did the math, and like to be able to provide enough crude to keep this thing running constantly, you would need a lot of crude, and it has to come in like once every minute. However, it doesn't really run constantly. But this is a cool setup because it does all the things. It has logic for fill up lubricant and fill up this heavy oil train, and then once you've done that, crack heavy oil to light oil, and once the light oil gets cracked to petroleum, and the petroleum gets made into plastic and sulfuric acid, and there's this rocket fuel build over here, which is really for this wasn't intended to make rocket fuel initially, but the purpose of it is that it's kind of twofold. It gives you a sink for light oil, and it also gives you a sink for excess petroleum, because when you back up on petroleum, what happens is you wind up stopping production down here, because like you can kind of see this one is full up of light oil. So I don't know if the ratios are quite right. This is another thing where like it'll be interesting to see in the new expansion how the changes to fluids affect this. I had to think harder about fluids than I ever did in any playthrough I did before. And I don't know if a lot of this is right. A lot of this looks very weird to me, but I did try to get them right. So you have parallel pipelines, just all kinds of nifty stuff going on. This was fun though. This was like a big project. This produces just about everything that you could need. Probably the next logical step would have been to get batteries in on here. If I had gone for pushing up science targets. So yeah, I mean that's the base. It's been a hell of a lot of fun. Just before we go, we might as well do a little of this. Can't reach that far. Yeah, that's another thing. I wanted to start researching artillery range, and kind of first off just have more automation around keeping the perimeter clear, because like you can see they really crept up. But what are you gonna do? So we should get some visitors over here pretty soon, and then we'll call it a night and wake up with a cool ass new game and a day off work. Probably take them a while to get there. Whatever. One nice thing about all these walls was just, when it came time to start like really producing a lot of plates, I was able to just run tracks and paste down these stations. Let's take a look at my turret coverage. You can see that my walls are impeccably defended. But I will say that as the evolutions started going up, they started making more inroads. If I had been playing on like rampant or something, I'd have probably had to do some extra work around this. So that'll be another thing that's fun with the expansion, you know, kind of seeing how well these ideas scale. I don't think they will. I think we'll need to utilize some of the new defenses. Another thing that real quick I'll mention is like I have procedures for deconstructing walls when they're no longer needed. And I have like a set of blueprints that I can use to turn this defense station that's like no longer relevant into a station that supplies the train, which was a really cool thing to like experiment with. You know, I had this whole setup where like I'd go and build a wall like this, and you know, another thing that was cool about this was these could build themselves. So like you would come and you'd stamp down the blueprint, run the trains out here, and then, you know, wait a little while, and all of a sudden you'd have a fresh new wall up. So hey, it's been a fun ride. I wonder if I've got another rocket in the. I bet I don't, because it looks like plastic's not making its way. Yeah, plastic's not making its way up to this. And I think the reason why is that there are other. Well, I don't know actually. Yeah, see, these other plastic drop-off stations are winding up, are using plastic fast enough that they never make it up here. So a third train could have solved that, but I also think that, like, I don't know if we may have needed more plastic. So I won't bother with that. I've launched my rockets, and there's not much point in further extending this factory. And it's getting late, and I got games to play tomorrow. So there she is.